Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. I'm your narrator, Simon. Tonight's story is a pretty creepy one. It was shared by a doctor. This incident happened to him when he was still a resident in Taiwan. Let's call him Dr. Lee. After the story, as usual, we'll break it down together from a Chinese cultural perspective, and I'll share what I think happened. So let's turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive right into it. Dr. Lee still remembers the exhaustion of those early days of residency. Long shifts at the hospital, where the pay was barely enough to cover rent. There was this constant feeling that life was moving faster than he could catch up. In those days, he accepted any part-time job he could find, whether it was doing physical exams at schools or covering night shifts at lonely rural clinics. He didn't have the luxury of picking and choosing. He needed these extra part-time jobs just to get by. That was why a notice pinned at the hospital bulletin board caught his eye. Part-time physician needed, rural clinic, competitive pay. But the pay wasn't just competitive, it was suspiciously generous for a countryside posting. But Dr. Lee had bills to pay, and after a brief phone call with the clinic's head physician, a woman who called herself Dr. Wong, he agreed to take an outpatient shift the following week. On his first day at this new part-time job, he set out on a crisp autumn afternoon, driving farther and farther from the city until the buildings thinned out, replaced by farmland and low houses. As he approached the mountain road, the landscape grew quiet in a way that made him lower the radio without realizing it. The road narrowed and curled sharply upward, and the forest around him grew dense enough to block the sun. Even with the windows shut, the air carried a stillness that felt strangely unnatural. No other cars passed them, no houses dotted the roadside. It was simply forest, road, and silence. The path to this clinic was an incline, up a small mountain. By the time he reached the top, the sky had darkened into a dull gray. The clinic appeared almost abruptly from between the trees, a small, single-story wooden building with an outdated sign and a dim porch light struggling against the mist. A man in a white coat stood waiting at the entrance, waving courteously as Dr. Lee pulled up into the parking lot and stepped out of the car. "Welcome, you must be Dr. Lee," he said, introducing himself as Dr. Wong, the clinic's director. His voice was soft, polite, and faintly nostalgic, like someone who had spent too long speaking quietly around elderly patients. Dr. Lee was a bit confused at first, because he had spoken to a female on the phone, also called Dr. Wong. He asked about this, and the gentleman responded, "Oh yes, that's my wife. We're both Dr. Wongs at this little clinic, but she's off today. You'll meet her soon." Inside, the clinic looked older than Dr. Lee expected, but clean in a way that showed someone took pride in maintaining it. Dr. Wong explained the routine. Most patients were elderly farmers from the area. The days were slow, the nights even slower. Upon hearing Dr. Wong's normal routine, Dr. Lee found himself relaxed. He wasn't too sure about this job listing at first, but this felt harmless, and he felt at ease when speaking with Dr. Wong. It should be an easy job, he thought. The outpatient shift passed uneventfully. A few elderly patients trickled in, all extremely polite and grateful, though noticeably quiet. Somewhere near the end of the day, Dr. Lee realized he hadn't seen a single nurse or receptionist on the premise. It seemed to be just the two doctors in the entire building, but Dr. Wong spoke so naturally about everything that Dr. Lee didn't want to question it. It just seemed like this was how this clinic operated. He didn't want to be asking all these questions on his first day, as if questioning how things were done around here. When he finished his shift and began to pack his things to go home, Dr. Wong approached him again, his expression suddenly serious. He advised that driving down the mountain after dark was very dangerous. The roads had no guardrails, and accidents were common here. He should become more familiar with the roads first before he risked driving them in the dark. He insisted that Dr. Lee stay the night in the clinic's small guest room. After thinking about the narrow turns he had spent nearly an hour navigating to get here earlier, Dr. Lee reluctantly agreed. Dr. Wong thanked him with an almost exaggerated sense of relief. Dinner was simple. There was a little kitchen in the back of this rural clinic. Dr. Wong and Dr. Lee both rolled up their sleeves and made dinner together. Steamed fish with white rice. The atmosphere remained polite, though Dr. Lee sensed a faint uneasiness in the older doctor's demeanor, as if something weighed heavily on his mind. Midway through their meal, Dr. Wong paused, placed his chopsticks down, and pressed his fingers on his forehead. His eyes drifted toward the window, unfocused, as though he were listening to a sound only he could hear. "I can't go home," he suddenly murmured, barely audible. "Sorry, what was that?" Dr. Wong didn't answer immediately. He repeated the phrase again, his voice tighter this time, strained in a way that unsettled Dr. Lee. Before he could ask further, the older doctor abruptly excused himself, stood up, and walked straight out of the clinic door into the pitch-black forest. The suddenness of it all froze Dr. Lee in his seat. He hesitated, unsure whether to chase after him, but something about the atmosphere, something about the way that Dr. Wong left, made him stay exactly where he was. The mood shifted, and everything just felt extremely strange. Eventually, he washed up and returned to the dimly lit guest room, laying down on the twin-sized bed, with the weight of the day heavy on his body. He shut his eyes briefly and fell into a deep sleep. He was exhausted. At some point in the night, he woke without opening his eyes, sensing before anything else that he couldn't move. His limbs felt like they were pinned down by some unknown weight. His chest felt tight. His mind was awake, but his body refused to respond. Sleep paralysis. His breathing grew shallow as he tried to calm himself. But then, a sound emerged from the darkness. A low, hoarse voice coming from somewhere near the foot of his bed.
"Please, just stay here with us."
Dr. Lee's heart pounded.
"Just stay with all of us."
The voice came closer, moving slowly along the floorboards. He could hear it shift to his left side. Then, behind his head, the breath brushing the hairs on his ears. Something pressed gently on the mattress beside him, as if someone were kneeling there or sitting next to him. With a surge of panic, he forced his muscles to respond with all his might, breaking through the paralysis. In a violent gasp, his eyes shot open. The voice vanished immediately, leaving only the sound of his own heartbeat thudding in his throat. He sat up, trembling, trying to steady his breath. That was when he heard another sound. A dull, dragging noise coming from the hallway just outside the guest room. Something heavy was scraping across the wooden floor right outside, inch by inch, in a weird rhythm that made the hairs on his arms stand upright. He held his breath, listening to the sound draw closer. Against his better judgment, he walked slowly over to the door and opened it, just enough to sneak a peek. The lights were all off outside, but Dr. Lee could make out the figure of Dr. Wong stood in the dark hallway. But the gentle, polite man who had greeted him earlier was gone. His eyes were rolled upward so completely that only the whites showed. His posture was rigid, his limbs stiff and jerking as if his joints weren't bending correctly. He wasn't alone. In one hand, Dr. Wong was dragging something, or someone. It looked like a woman, except it wasn't a full woman. Her body ended at the waist, her torso scraping against the floor, long hair spreading out behind her in a dark, tangled trail. Her arms dangled limply, her fingernails scratched faint grooves on the wooden planks as she was dragged. Dr. Lee stared in numb disbelief, unable to comprehend the scene, unable to blink. The dragging stopped. Very slowly, the woman's head twisted upward. Her face was pale, lifeless, her eyes hollow and completely black. Yet, she looked straight at him, unblinking, as if she had been waiting. When her lips parted, her voice was thin and breathless, as though it had traveled a long way to reach him. "Stay." Dr. Wong's head jerked sharply in Dr. Lee's direction, his white eyes widening. Dr. Wong yelled out, "I'm sorry. I want to save them all, but I can't. I can't save them all. There's too many of them." Something primal surged through Dr. Lee's body. He slammed the door shut, stumbled backwards, grabbed his shoes without tying them, and ran through the rear exit of the clinic into the forest. Branches whipped against his face as he tore down the unlit path, guided only by moonlight filtering through the trees. He could hear his heartbeat pounding in his chest, his ragged breathing, and behind him, faint but unmistakable, the sound of footsteps and dragging. When he finally dared to look over his shoulder, he saw them. Dozens of people. Some appeared to be walking, some appeared to be just torsos, dragging themselves through the forest. All of them looked like they had been some sort of horrific accident, all running, clawing, or dragging themselves between the trees. The ones with long hair, their hair trailed like black water behind them. Their movements were erratic, some twisting, some clawing forward. They were watching him, following him. He stumbled down the slope, tumbling through undergrowth and dirt until everything faded into darkness. When he regained consciousness, morning light filtered through the trees overhead. He found himself lying on a dirt path, halfway down the mountain. For some unknown reason, to Dr. Lee, he was in bad shape. When he woke up, he noticed that he was inside his own car. At the bottom of this cliff, his car was destroyed. He was in a lot of pain, as if he broke some bones, but he was alive. As he slowly tried to free himself from the mangled car, he slowly looked up as he sensed there was a presence above him. Near the top of the cliff, there was a silhouette against the sky. It was Dr. Wong. The older doctor stared down at him from the edge, with a stiff smile on his face that was too wide. He stood unnaturally stiff and motionless. Dr. Lee fainted again from the pain. When he woke up next, he was in a hospital bed, back at the main hospital where he worked as a resident. His colleagues were gathered around, relieved that he was awake. They told him that he was found in a really bad car accident. A doctor brought him in early that morning, saying that he had been found at the bottom of a cliff. A doctor named Dr. Wong, one colleague added casually. Everyone was glad he was alive. His car was destroyed, and he was lucky to have made it out alive at all. Dr. Lee's breath caught in his throat. After months of recovery, he insisted on returning to that mountain with the senior doctor to see where he had this accident. But when they reached the fork in the mountain road, nothing matched his memory of what happened that day. The left road, the one he vividly remembered driving up, was blocked by a large metal barrier with bold letters reading, "Danger, road closed." Beyond it was a very tight, narrow road, right next to a sheer cliff. According to the senior doctor that accompanied Dr. Lee, this was where he had driven the car off the road. A bunch of accidents have occurred here in the past, especially at night, as there are no streetlights, and the road was so narrow. Not all of the victims were as lucky as Dr. Lee. Many people that drove off the cliff here have died. There was no clinic, no pathway, no building ever existed there. They checked the right path instead, and there stood a small clinic. This one, a bit more modern, clearly operational. As Dr. Lee got out of the car and saw the address on the clinic door, he realized this was the clinic that he was supposed to work at before his accident. As they knocked on the door, a middle-aged woman answered the door, introducing herself as Dr. Wong. That's when it clicked for Dr. Lee. This was the female Dr. Wong that he had spoken to when he had called to inquire about the job listing. When Dr. Lee asked to speak with the male Dr. Wong, she froze in confusion, her eyes softened with guilt. "My husband passed away last year," she said quietly. "He drove off the left road by accident." Inside the waiting room hung a framed photograph of her husband. Dr. Lee felt his blood leave his face. He recognized him instantly. The same man who welcomed him. The same man who worked beside him. The same man who dragged a half-bodied woman across the hallway. The same man who looked down at him from that mountain slope. The clinic where he had spent the night didn't exist. The road he drove up wasn't real. And the doctor who saved his life had been dead for an entire year. So, Hong Kong horror fans, what do you think happened here to Dr. Lee? Did he dream everything after his accident? But if that was the case, how did he dream of this man with the same face as the photograph in the waiting room before he ever met or saw him? Please pause the video here and let me know what you think happened. Alright, so what do I think happened here from a Chinese cultural perspective? This one is a pretty deep one, so let me break it down into bite-sized pieces based on what I think happened to Dr. Lee. So first, when did this haunting actually begin? Maybe haunting isn't the right word. Perhaps a more fitting word would be paranormal event. I think that the moment Dr. Lee started driving up on the left road, his accident had already happened. Everything after that is half in the in-world. In other words, that first night that he spent at the clinic was not in the normal human realm, Yuangan, but in a kind of overlap space between the living and the dead, Yam Yuan Kao Gai. The clinic he saw was likely a ghost version of the real clinic, constructed by Dr. Wong's spirit around the place where he died, familiar enough to function as his territory, so he continues doing what he did in life, being a doctor. Dr. Lee most likely already crashed or was in the process of crashing that night. His consciousness went with Dr. Wong into this ghostly setting while his physical body was unconscious in the wrecked car. This is a very common explanation in Chinese ghost lore. When a person is near death, their spirit can wander into the inside briefly, then come back if their lifespan isn't finished yet. So Ming Mei Do. From a Chinese cultural point of view, Dr. Wong is almost certainly a Yunwan, a spirit bound to the place of his accident, and at the same time, a kind of working ghost, continuing his role as a doctor even after death. Several details line up. He keeps repeating, "I can't go home, I can't go home." In Chinese thinking, that's classic for a soul who died suddenly and violently, like a car accident, didn't get closure or proper ritual, and is stuck, replaying, regretting what happened. So he literally can't go home, spiritually. Dr. Wong also mentioned something. "I wanted to save them all, but I can't. I can't save all of them." To me, this sounds like his professional guilt as a doctor. He wants to save as much people as he possibly can, but he can't save them all. This is all mixed with the fact that many people have died on that same road. All of the people that came into the clinic that day, as well as the people that Dr. Lee saw that night in the forest. They're probably all spirits of people who have perished on that road, as well as other local spirits in the area. Their spirits accumulate, and Dr. Wong feels responsible or tied to them. Dr. Lee saw him dragging one of the bodies inside the clinic. I think that Dr. Wong was trying to help them, but didn't know how. He meant well, but there was nothing he can do, as he was just one of them. In Chinese belief, people who die with strong emotions, especially guilt and responsibility, can become very effective ghosts. Dr. Wong feels like that sort of ghost. Not evil, but trapped, tormented. So let's dig a little deeper into who the half-body woman and the other figures are. I think these are victims of accidents on that road, whose bodies were badly mutilated in the accidents that claimed their lives. In ghost stories, when the body is incomplete or dismembered, the ghost often appears in the same state it was at the time of death. This is tied to the idea that the soul are affected by how the body dies. The forest full of dragging, crawling figures, these are likely all the past accident victims from the same road. Over time, dangerous spots become yin places, where spirits linger. New victims are drawn in. The place becomes like a little ghost ward, which fits that it appears as a clinic. The woman saying, "Stay," and the soft voice during the paralysis, whispering, "Just stay here with us." That's exactly how Chinese people often describe 孤魂野鬼, wandering lonely spirits who want company. They're not necessarily trying to murder you in the Western horror sense. They're trying to keep you with them so they aren't lonely in that place of suffering. So what was this clinic really? In Chinese cultural terms, that clinic is probably a borrowed space created in the in-world around the site of the accident. And Dr. Wang's strongest lifetime attachment, his job as a doctor, a sort of Wangok, ghost illusion, but with real spiritual consequences. From a Chinese point of view, we would call this Yumgaidik Tanso, a clinic in the yin realm, not accessible in normal daylight reality, only to those close to death or spiritually vulnerable. So why did Dr. Wang both frighten and save Dr. Li? This is the interesting part. On the surface, Dr. Wang is terrifying. White eyes, dragging ghosts, and surrounded by mutilated spirits. But if we ignore the horror visuals and just follow the outcome, Dr. Li does crash his car. He should have died like the others. But yet, he survives and is safely delivered to the hospital. And the staff even say, a doctor named Dr. Wang brought you in. From a Chinese cultural angle, this suggests that Dr. Wang is not there to kill him. He is there to escort him to the border between life and death, and then push him back to the living side. So I think that Dr. Li's lifespan wasn't up yet. In many Chinese beliefs, everyone has a set lifespan, written in the Book of Life and Death. If you haven't reached your allotted time, even if you should die in an accident, some forces intervene. Dr. Li may have enough good karma or unfinished fate that he must survive. Dr. Wang, being tied to the location, becomes the one acting as the guide. Also, Dr. Wang's lingering duty as a doctor. He couldn't save himself. He couldn't save everyone on that road. So now, as a spirit, every once in a while, he manages to save just one person, fulfilling a tiny slice of that medical oath he still carries. Also, from a karmic standpoint, might slowly work off his guilt and obsession. In Chinese ghost stories, even the good ghosts can appear terrifying because their yin energy is too strong. Their bodies are sometimes stuck in the state they died in. Their environment is filled with suffering spirits. Thank you, Hong Kong horror fans, for making it all the way to this point of the video. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Looking forward to speaking with all of you again next week.